Hello everyone. Today is May the 1st, 2019, and Michael and I are here as co-authors of Game Changer. And so we're going to have a little discussion tonight. What I do want to let you know is we're restructuring a lot, and we are going to start doing videos sometime every week, and we will let you know. And we would also like to know if you would like to send in and have a specific topic. As you know, Game Changer is a relationship book, and it's about the new model of relationships, okay, where we're moving into interdependency. And so tonight, Michael and I decided we would probably talk about communication. It seems to be a big thing, and about being emotionally honest, okay? A lot of people that are pleasers, that are agreeable personalities, that take things personally, that don't want to be hurt, that don't want to hurt anybody, will suppress what they really need to say until it's not really good in the relationship. What do you think about that, Michael?
You're going to ask me a question?
Yeah, what do you think about communication?
Oh, I think it's essential. I just happen to be jotting down the part of communication that I think is essential is that two people can see a situation the same. Okay, you're talking about the same thing. You can't see the situation completely different and move forward on any kind of communication, because if I remember it this way and you remember it that way, then we go in a circle. This is what happens, right? And I know, for example, if you go to a hockey game, okay, you leave that hockey game, everyone in the building knows the score of that hockey game. Whatever team won, whoever scored the goals, nobody disputes that fact. Each one in the stands sees the same result of that game the same way. And so when you're sitting having a conversation with your partner, and if you can see the situation the way it unfolded, and then have your points of view, they'll probably be different. Same as in a hockey game. You might think a penalty should have been called, it wasn't. You'll always have a different point of view, and maybe you'll come to some sort of an agreement. But if you say, look, that really wasn't the score in the game, and it was, how's the person that's talking to you that knows the score of the game going to have any kind of a meaningful communication or conversation? You're still discussing the score of the game. So how do you get to what really happened in the game? And in this case, in a relationship, or the situation in a relationship, if you both aren't aware and conscious, you know, that you understand what happened, you're trying to let's say, mediate the situation, and come to a meaningful result on both sides, that's awesome. But how do you do that unless you're seeing the same situation, or the situation the same way? Bring your point of view to it, because it might not be the way you think it should wind up, and it might be for the other person. But to me, there's no starting point if you cannot agree on the situation you're discussing. You got to start with that.
Okay. My only challenge with that is that seeing a specific situation, each person has their own perception of that situation. Okay? And yes, what happens with a hockey game, it's outside of you. Okay? What happens in a relationship, it's usually something that's meaningful or emotional to both people, and they might have a different perception on it. Okay?
Now, the point I'm making, I think off the top of my head, say you're at a party somewhere, and a situation has happened that's between the two of you, and you need to discuss it when you get home. Let's say somehow I felt embarrassed by you starting a conversation and revealing something I didn't want revealed. And so I need to talk to you about that. That's something that if I wanted to let known publicly, I would have said, but you chose to say it for me. But then when we come home, you say, well, I never said that, or I never started to say that. It wasn't me, it was you who said it. And then you're like, there's no perception there. One person said it, and one person was offended by it. And so if you can't figure that out, it's a non-starter. You'll never satisfy either one of you, because the person who said it but agrees to disagree with you by saying, no, I didn't say it, won't take any responsibility for that situation. So the other person who's sort of been on the receiving end of that will get nowhere near forward, because the same thing could happen the next time, and then the same situation. The person backs up and says, when confronted, I never said that.
So in actuality, that person's lying.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
So how they perceive what went down is, well, I mean, if they can't perceive that they said something that offended or at least started the conversation with, and then if they even can't agree that they did that, then you have a non-starter.
Well, so then basically that relationship isn't going to work, because one's telling the truth and one's lying.
Yeah, well, it's been my experience that happens a lot. There's been times in my life where I've said, look, I should have had a tape recorder. I needed a damn tape recorder to say what went down in what order, because oftentimes it's not remembered the way it went down, and so it would clarify for both people. And you shouldn't really have to go down that road, but it seems like I don't think I'm saying something that most people haven't experienced.
Okay,
right?
So that's one example. Another one would be a perception challenge. So that's an actual situation that went down. So how about if you're talking about the situation, and how about if that does happen, if you start to keep notes on it? Well, to me, that's really logical.
Well, it certainly would eliminate the need or the preliminary discussion as to what was said in what order and who said it and so on.
Well,
if you could both get that in order, straight in your minds, and agree on that, then I think you can come to terms. You can mediate what it is that was the issue.
Well, you could find
right?
a resolution.
For sure.
So that's an actual situation that happened.
But if you can't get that far with your partners, if that's continually over and over and over, that's the starting point, and the ending point, that's going to be a tough goal, right? Communication won't happen. It won't happen. It'll go like this.
Well, first and foremost, there's two parts to communication. One part is talking, and the other part is listening, okay? And a lot of people aren't actively listeners. What they do is, in their mind, they're listening to the other person and they're just waiting to respond. So they're not really getting it, okay? So one of the things you might want to do is, I've had to do this in the past, is if somebody said something to me, I will say, okay, so is this what you really meant? So then I'm really clear. First of all, they know that I'm listening, and then I'm saying to them, is this what you mean by it? So now we've got that part clarified. I think that's one thing you can do. And another thing is, if something does happen like that, you write it down. And to me, after it happens 3 times, and if you're still in that kind of a challenge, I think it's time that you go and have some kind of counseling or mediation, because it's not going to get any better. You're going to be on that gerbil. That's about a specific situation. When it comes to, you have different perceptions, and one of the things would be about politics. Okay? So I'm sure that...
Well, there's no solution to politics. There just won't be, because, I mean, it's like church, that kind of, there's just some things that there will be no solution to.
Well...
But let's just say, now, okay, let's say we get past that.
Yeah.
Let's say that both parties sees the situation that they need to resolve the same way. They remember the events that happened in the same order, and so you're past that now, right? All right. So now I think communication requires clear language skills. It's like, so far I've never figured out how to be telepathic. I don't know how to do that yet. So the words that I say have to be spoken clearly, with the intent that I mean them to be, and then receive that way, right? And same with the partner. When the partner says her point, as like Sandra said about the listening, so now you got to listen. You've had a chance to say your point clearly. Now you listen, right? And so to jump to the end of that, let's say you've made a resolution. You've come to solution, to terms, and you think it's satisfactory on both parts. Now your word matters, okay? If you've agreed to that situation, in my mind, that situation should never be an issue again. Because both parties clearly understand what it is, what they've come to terms and agreed about. That should never come up again. It's, in my mind, it's a done deal. It's, I've agreed to it, I'll live by that, done. Let's move forward, right? And so, how do you see that, Sandra, if a person says and comes to agreement after all this hashing out and the emotion that's involved and trying to find resolution and solution between two people, you know, that are trying to make something out of their life with each other together? How do you see it when what you had agreed on turns out to be a non-agreement the next time down the road? The same issue arises and you have to repeat the process with the same situation.
Well, as I said before, if it's a continual thing on the same situation, then I would suggest you go to counseling. That's number one. Number two, you can agree on something, and then depending on what happens, because things change, then if there something else comes up, then you can renegotiate or you can talk about it. Okay, I think it's a matter of talking. And as I was listening to you, one of the things that I know is you can buy these talking sticks. Okay, and I think it's a really good thing in relationships, because when you hold the talking stick, you hold it like this. You can buy them at any kind of spiritual or mystical store. When you have the talking stick, you get to talk, and the other person has to actively listen. Okay, and I think that's where you have to start, because when you're emotional and you're all upset about something, you lose the power of logic and sitting and listening. You become too emotional, you're too irrational, okay? And so that to me is the biggest thing. And the biggest thing is communication, and it changes. In my world, life is impermanent and life changes. Like, it's like tonight I'll go to bed and it's like this day is done. Okay, what happened an hour ago is done. What happened 2 days ago is done. So when I wake up tomorrow, I'm in a new space. Okay, and I have to let what happened yesterday go, and I have to say, how am I going to handle now? And depending, somebody can have a bad hair day, something went wrong, they're upset. There's a multitude of things, okay? We're no different than nature. Some days we get up, the sun's shining. By noon there's a thunderstorm, okay? And we are that way too. All I know is we have to sit in that moment in the now and be honest and have to say, you know what? I need to talk to you about what we talked about before. It's not resonating with me today. There's been some changes, okay? So can we talk? Just being clear so that nobody takes it personally, okay? Nobody says, no, you can't do that, or maybe we can do it later. There has to be some form of agreement, and I think it's just about respecting. And the first thing is respecting yourself and respecting the other person. And the big thing is being authentic, okay? I don't find a lot of authenticity in people. They play the game. You find it at work, you find it in the workplace, you find it all over. It's like we're playing the game, okay? Well, life to me and relationships are not a game. And we can see that in the divorce rate and in the challenges that relationships are going through. And so I just think there's a lot of, I don't think anything's ingrained in stone, and it would be nice to say that, okay, we've made this decision, it's whatever, but there's many different things that can come up, okay? And it's just a matter of being able to say, can we talk about this? Can we look at it? Okay.
Oh, perhaps. I guess my point is, once you've made the agreement, I would expect my partner to honor that agreement. Whatever it was that we both said, okay, we're good. And so if the situation changes, and then you want to revisit that again and say, look, I got to talk this through a little bit better. I didn't sort of see that coming, and it's now changing my point of view on that. So, okay, that's good. That's good. But if you've made an agreement, you have to honor that agreement by both parties, in my opinion, until you've both agreed to change it.
Right.
Okay?
And that's all I'm saying, is that there can be an agreement.
Oh, yeah, that's always open for sure, right?
And so I think that one I think is good. The challenge comes when there is such a different perception. And when people start dating and then they get to know each other, and that's why part of the first chapter of Game Changer, so many people that have purchased the book and have done the whole first chapter is all self-discovery, and it's a questionnaire. You have to ask yourself these questions, then you have to, and we can discuss some of them, then you have to do it with your partner. And so then you start to get to know each other. So how honestly are you answering those questions? How much time have you taken? And then how honestly has your partner, and then it's going to take time to see that. And so the perception is like, and I'm going to say one of the big things is children. Let's say you as the female have said, I want to have children and I don't want to work. Okay, that's in that woman's mind. And so one of the questions is, do you want children? Okay, so as a female, I would say, yes, I want to be a mother. And if you said you wanted to be a father, okay, you've agreed that you're going to have children, okay? And Lisa Lynch has a really good thing on parent alienation, okay, where this actually happened, okay? So a man in the military married this woman, they had 2 children, and they agreed that, she would stay at home, he was in the military, and he comes home and the kids are like 3 years old, and she says, I want to go and do a PhD. Well, you've got 2 children, okay, and he's away. The next thing he got was a divorce. A letter came to the door that he was going to get a divorce. So how do you resolve those kind of issues? Those are big issues. The moment a woman gets a ring on her finger, or she has that baby, or vice versa, a man, nowadays it's mostly the females that we're having a challenge with.
To me, it's everything comes down to being honest up front. Okay, if you have a situation, you don't try and come around the back door, try and manipulate somebody by not telling the whole truth, or swinging the truth, a tiny bit off center. So it's not in balance. You got to come at that guy straight on, or that woman straight on, and you got to say the truth, what you really mean, right up front.
Right.
So I know, all right, I know you want to have a baby. You want me to look after you. You expect that I will be the wage earner. You want to be a stay-at-home mother. Now you've given me the opportunity through clear communication, all right, to agree or disagree to that before we have kids. Now, if I agree to that, it's not going to be fair for me to come back in here and say, oh, I screwed that all up. I want to change my mind. Because now we've committed a whole bunch to what we both agreed on, right? And so it's any more different than saying, hey, you know what? I really want to get married. I think that the biggest reason I want to get married to you is because I think we could be great together as a family. I really want children. I want you to be the mother of my children. And you agree. You say the same thing. And we're very clear and straight up front about it. And then the marriage happens. And then you come to me and say, I think I changed my mind. I thought about it. I don't really want to have kids. Well, that's not really very fair, right? You have to take that responsibility on yourself to say, I got to honor my commitment. I did. I said I would. That man agreed. He gave up a lot in his life to make sure that, he's prepared for this. And I just can't pull that rug out from under him like that without a really good reason. I mean, maybe if my life is in danger and all that kind of a, you know, they say that I can't have a baby properly. Okay, all right, there's circumstances. But because now you've just decided, look, I don't want a baby. I think I don't want to work. I already got him having a full-time job to look after me. I like this life. You can't go down that road as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, this is really good. Okay, first and foremost, number one, a person has the right to be able to change their mind. Number one, okay. Number two, I see where you're going with that. And I know men that have married women that have said they want to have children and that they wanted to be at home. Number one, they won't have any children and they refuse to go to work. Okay, so we have that thing. The one thing I do want to say though is things change. Okay, so the bottom line is if you do get married and say something happens to the man, like there might be illness, who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, those kinds of extenuating circumstances will change anybody's best laid plans.
But that's why I'm saying, when you're going into a relationship, both of you need to be generators. Both of you should have jobs. Both of you should have lived on your own. Both of you should know what life is all about. And then you're going to get together. Okay, because if there isn't, you never know what tomorrow is going to bring. Okay, and so that's where I think things can change.
Well, I'm not. I mean, that's sort of. I agree with that. I mean, both should be generators, but this is a conversation about communication within couples, and I just threw a situation out there. Maybe it's not ideal, but it's a situation that if I had agreed to marry a woman, and I was in love with her and felt that we could, you know, like through the situation I'd explained, and then she pulled the pin out from under me, and I'm already committed into a relationship. I'm already committed into marriage. I've sworn by all these vows, you know. I think you got to think hard about changing that situation, but it's not impossible. You know, I think it would be grounds for an annulment. I really do. And so, but you got to know that up front. I mean, this is just my point of view. There might be lots of people say that wouldn't be grounds for annulment, but that's your situation. All I'm saying is clear, truthful, honest information in any community situation, and you come to terms based on that. And both people agree, and it might be different situations for every other couple. What might work for me might not work for another one. I'm certainly not trying to preach to anybody what they should think. I'm just saying it's fair to say that everybody should be truthful in their communication with each other. Okay. And then when both parties agree to the situation that's laid out completely truthfully in front of them, you have to honor that as best you can. I know situations in life change and extenuating circumstances can happen, but we're not really counting on that.
No, but how about, I think what we've done is we've talked about communication, the listening skills, the talking skills, how things change, there's impermanence, that type of thing. So maybe we should just leave it with that, because today was about communicating. It was about being honest, about not taking things personally, about being really clear with your communication, about having integrity and respect. And how about if we close it at that? And if anybody has any questions, or you can hopefully you subscribe to the YouTube, or you can and you can put some comments, or you can find us and get a hold of us with our email. And we have prizes that we give away. There's intimacy reports or destiny reports to show you how your relationship is, if there is any challenges, what areas could be challenging, and how can they be handled. And so I think it would be really good if you would like anything that we've said, if you've got something that you could say about it, okay, if you've had an experience, what do you think, Michael, that they might want to share or take in? And
absolutely, because everybody's situations will be different.
Right.
But the truth part should always be a constant.
Right.
It always should be.
And
if I just, you know, like, to end it for me, and then I'll let Sandra finish, just always try and remember to keep your personal bar pretty high. You know, if you operate from that basis, from a higher level of yourself, the best level you can be, a lot of right things will happen for you. You'll make decisions that are based on a higher, better you. Okay? Don't operate from down here. Just stay out of that swampy part where you're trying to take advantage and the manipulation and all that. Do the right thing, even when nobody's looking.
Right. So be the best you can, okay? And it has to be a benefit of both involved. And so today it was about emotional honesty, truthfulness, the impermanence, resolving situations, and thank you for listening. And we're really excited, and you can watch for Game Changer, which is coming out on audio very soon. And we hope to that you'll subscribe and that we'll get some comments, and maybe we can talk about anything that you've sent in. And like I said, there's some prizes that we'll choose. And thank you.